If you've ever been in the middle of sex and suddenly thought, why doesn't this feel as good as it's supposed to? Or something's off, but I don't know what, you're not broken and you're definitely not alone. A lot of smart, caring people are unintentionally doing things during sex that quietly kill their own pleasure. Not because they're bad lovers or don't care, but because no one ever taught them how pleasure actually works. In this video, I want to talk about what not to do during sex if you actually want it to feel good, in your body and in your mind. Not unrealistic movie sex, not performance sex, but real, connected, satisfying sex. And just to set expectations, we're not talking about crazy positions or secret tricks. This isn't about turning you into some porn star fantasy. This is about a handful of really common habits that I see over and over again in people and couples that drain pleasure, create anxiety, and slowly make sex feel like work instead of something you genuinely look forward to. Quick note before we dive in. This is education, not personal medical or mental health advice. If you have pain during sex, major relationship issues, a history of trauma, or medical concerns, please talk with a qualified healthcare provider or therapist. You deserve support that's tailored to you. All right, let's start with one of the biggest pleasure killers almost nobody talks about directly. During sex, don't perform. Experience. So many people treat sex like they're on stage. You're half in your body, half in your head, watching yourself from the outside. How do I look right now? Am I taking too long? Am I moving enough? Do I seem into it? Are they going to think I'm weird if I ask for something different? This is so common, it has a name in sex research: spectatoring, when you're in your own mental audience instead of inside your sensations. Here's the problem. Your brain can't be deeply in pleasure and deeply in self-judgment at the same time. When you're monitoring, evaluating, worrying, your nervous system is in performance mode, not pleasure mode. Blood flow, arousal, even lubrication or erection can all be affected by that stress and distraction. So what do you do instead? The next time you're intimate, make a quiet deal with yourself. Your main job is not to impress, it's to feel. When you notice your brain jumping into criticism, my stomach looks bad, I'm taking too long, I should be doing more. Gently catch that thought and come back to something concrete. The feeling of someone's skin on yours, the warmth of their breath, your own breathing, the weight of your body on the bed. You don't have to be some meditation expert, just keep redirecting from how do I look to what do I feel. If you do nothing else but switch from performing to experiencing, your pleasure is going to change more than any technique trick ever will. Next big one, during sex, don't treat orgasm as the only goal. This is one of the most common ways people ruin their own enjoyment without realizing it. We've been sold this script that good sex equals everybody orgasms, ideally at the same time, and if that doesn't happen, the whole thing was a failure. So what happens? You go in with a scorecard. Instead of noticing what actually feels good, your mind is locked on, am I close enough yet? Are they close yet? What if I can't finish? What if they can't finish? The result is pressure, and pressure is the enemy of arousal. For many people, the more they try to force orgasm, the farther away it feels. Their body tenses, breath gets shallow, anxiety creeps in, and the experience goes from playful to stressful in seconds. There's another layer to this. Different bodies warm up differently. Some people are ready quickly, others take longer. For many people with vulvas, for example, it's totally normal to need more time, sometimes 20 minutes or more of arousal and build-up, before orgasm is even a realistic possibility. If you make orgasm the only marker of success, you're going to feel like you're behind a lot of the time, when actually your body is fine. Try a different definition of successful sex. Did it feel good along the way? Did you feel respected, safe, and connected? Did you have moments you genuinely enjoyed even if no one finished in the movie-style way? When you take the pressure off orgasm as the sole measure of success, you actually create the conditions where orgasm is more likely to happen naturally. That doesn't mean orgasm doesn't matter, it just means it's not the only point. Think of it more like dessert, great when it happens, but not the entire meal. Third, during sex, don't stay silent and hope your partner can read your mind. A lot of people hate the idea of talking during sex. They think it will kill the mood, or they feel embarrassed to ask for what they want, or they don't want to hurt their partner's feelings by giving feedback. So they say nothing, they tolerate things that don't feel great, or they just hope the other person will magically figure it out. That silence is a huge pleasure killer. Your partner is not psychic. Even if they've had lots of experience, every body is different. What worked for their last partner won't necessarily work for you, and what worked for you last month might not feel as good today. When you say nothing, you both end up guessing, and guessing is rarely a recipe for consistent pleasure. You don't need to deliver a TED Talk in the middle of sex. Tiny, kind, direct pieces of information are enough. A little slower, softer. Can you stay right there? This is really good, but I think I need a break for a second. Think of it less as criticism and more as navigation. If you were driving someone to your favorite restaurant, you wouldn't just sit silently and get annoyed when they missed the turn. You'd say, "Hey, next left." A great way to make this easier is to have a short, low-pressure conversation outside the bedroom. Something like, "Hey, can we talk for 2 minutes about what feels best for you lately and what doesn't? I really want us both to have more fun." Keep it specific, kind, and about pleasure, not blame. Over time, the more normal it feels to talk about sex, the easier it becomes to give feedback in the moment without killing the mood. Fourth, during sex, don't ignore your body when it's telling you something is wrong. This is a big one, especially for people who have been raised to prioritize their partner's pleasure or to just tough it out. If sex is painful, if you're feeling burning, dryness, sharp discomfort, numbness, or something just feels off, your body is giving you information. Pushing through pain or discomfort to get it over with can train your brain to link sex with suffering instead of pleasure. Over time, your body will start tensing up in anticipation, and your desire may drop even if you really like your partner. Pain isn't always a sign of something serious, but it's never something you just have to accept. It might be about not enough arousal or warm-up. It might be about lack of lubrication. It might relate to pelvic floor tension, hormonal changes, infections, or other medical issues. The key is, don't override it. Pause. Change what you're doing, use more lube, slow down, or stop altogether if needed, and say, "Something doesn't feel right, I think I need to take a break." If pain is consistent, bring it to a healthcare provider who actually takes sexual pain seriously. For people with vulvas, that may be a gynecologist or pelvic floor physical therapist. For people with penises, a urologist can help with pain or erection problems. You deserve sex that doesn't hurt. Ignoring pain may feel like you're being easygoing in the moment, but long-term, it can absolutely ruin your pleasure. Fifth, during sex, don't compare your body or your experience to porn, TikTok, or your past. Comparison robs pleasure. If the whole time you're in bed, you're thinking, "Why don't I look like that?" Or, "Why aren't we doing it like they do in that video?" Or, "It used to be so much more intense when I was 20, you're not actually in the sex you're having. You're in a mental slideshow of other people's bodies or your own history. Most porn is designed to be visually exciting, not realistic. Scenes are edited, angles are chosen to make things look bigger or more dramatic, and performers are picked because they're at the far edges of what's typical. On top of that, you're not seeing everything it took to make that scene happen. Breaks, discomfort, communication, awkward moments. Real bodies make real noises, sweat, cramp, sometimes laugh, sometimes need to change positions because a leg falls asleep. Real desire fluctuates depending on stress, hormones, sleep, and relationship dynamics. There are seasons where sex is frequent and wild, and seasons where it's quieter and less frequent. None of that means you're broken. If you catch yourself comparing, gently remind yourself, that's entertainment. This is my real life, with a real person, right now. Then bring your attention back into your own senses. What actually feels good in this moment, with this body, right here? Your best sex is not going to look like anyone else's highlight reel, and that's a good thing. Sixth, during sex, don't rely on being half present or heavily intoxicated to get through it. A lot of people use distraction or substances to cope with anxiety around sex. Maybe you keep the TV on in the background, check your phone, or mentally go somewhere else instead of being in your body. Or maybe you feel like you need a certain amount of alcohol or other substances before you can even think about being intimate. The short-term appeal is obvious. If you're not fully there, you don't have to feel as awkward or vulnerable, but the cost is high. Pleasure depends on presence. Your nervous system needs to actually register safe, enjoyable touch to build strong, this is good associations. If you're numbing out or blurring the edges constantly, You're teaching your brain that sex is something to get through, not something to really feel. Alcohol has another catch. While a small amount might lower anxiety, too much can literally make it harder to get or stay aroused, to reach orgasm, or to even notice more subtle sensations. For some people, using alcohol regularly as a sexual lubricant becomes a quiet dependency. Sex without it starts to feel impossible. If you notice you're often not truly present during sex, start small. Maybe you experiment with a night where you turn off the TV, put your phones in another room, and create a little intentional space, even if you don't end up having intercourse. If you usually drink to get in the mood, try cutting the amount in half, or choosing one night where you stay sober and just explore touch or make-out time without the pressure to go all the way. It might feel vulnerable at first, but over time, learning to be present is one of the most powerful ways to increase genuine pleasure. 7th, during sex, don't fake your reactions as a long-term strategy. Faking enjoyment or orgasm is incredibly common. People do it to avoid hurting their partner's feelings, to make things end faster, or because they think that's what's expected. In the very short term, it can feel like the easiest way out of an awkward moment, but long term, it sets up a painful trap. When you fake pleasure, you're unintentionally training your partner to keep doing whatever didn't actually feel that good for you. They think, oh, that worked, and next time they repeat it. You feel even more pressure to fake again so you don't reveal that you weren't really into it before. Over time, resentment builds. Your own body learns that sex is a place where you perform, not a place where you're honest. I'm not saying you're a bad person if you've ever faked. Many people started doing it very young, before they even had a chance to know what they genuinely liked. But if you want more pleasure, at some point the faking has to stop. Does that mean announcing, by the way, I've been faking for 5 years? Not necessarily. You can start fresh from here. Next time you're intimate, instead of exaggerating or pretending, let your reactions match what you're actually feeling, even if they're quieter or more subtle. When something feels genuinely good, let yourself show it. When something doesn't, gently guide things in a different direction. Can we try this instead? Or can we slow down a bit? If you're in a long-term relationship and feel safe enough, having an honest conversation can be incredibly freeing. Something like, I realize I haven't always been totally honest about what feels best for me because I didn't want to make you feel bad. I really want us both to enjoy this more. Can we start experimenting and checking in with each other? A caring partner might feel a bit surprised at first, but if they truly care about your pleasure, they'll want to know. 8th, during sex, don't rush the warm-up. This is one of the most physically straightforward ways people ruin their own pleasure. They skip right from 0 to main event, and then wonder why it doesn't feel that great, why arousal is low, or why there's pain or difficulty reaching orgasm. Sexual arousal is a process, not a switch. Your brain and body need time to transition from everyday mode, work, kids, stress, phones, into sensual mode. Blood flow increases, muscles relax, breathing shifts, certain parts of your body swell or lengthen or lubricate. For many people, especially those with vulvas, this can take significantly longer than the quick ramp-up often shown in movies. When you rush through or skip that build-up, your body is being asked to sprint without a warm-up. Pleasure is muted and the risk of pain goes up. You might intellectually want sex, but your body hasn't caught up yet. Slowing down doesn't have to mean some dramatic, hours-long scene. It can be as simple as agreeing that before anything more intense happens, you'll spend time kissing, touching, talking, or doing whatever helps you both gradually tune in. For some couples, this starts even outside the bedroom. Small flirty texts during the day, a hug that lasts a bit longer, some non-sexual touch on the couch. If one person tends to get aroused faster, this is where communication comes in again. The faster arousing partner might need to consciously slow themselves down, enjoy the anticipation, and see their partner's warm-up as part of the experience, not an obstacle. The slower arousing partner can help by being honest about what helps them get there. Maybe it's reassurance, certain kinds of touch, or feeling emotionally connected first. Now, all of these don'ts really boil down to a few big principles. Be in your body, not in a performance. Focus on the experience, not just the outcome. Be honest instead of pretending, and treat your body and your partner's body with respect instead of rushing or overriding signals. Let's pull this together into something you can actually use. Imagine your next sexual experience whether that's with a long-term partner, a new partner, or yourself. And mentally try on these shifts. You decide ahead of time that you're going to be curious instead of judgmental. If something doesn't work, it's not a failure, it's information. You go in knowing orgasm is welcome, but not a test you have to pass. You allow pleasure to build without constantly checking the clock in your head. You give yourself permission to say one small thing out loud about what you like or don't like, even if it's just, "Can you stay right there?" You're building that muscle, not waiting to magically become a communication expert. You make an agreement with yourself that if anything hurts, you will pause or stop without apologizing for it. You'll treat your own comfort as important. You leave comparison at the door. This sex doesn't have to look like your past, your friends, or your favorite show. It just has to feel right for the people in the room. You choose to be present. Maybe that means putting the phone away. Maybe that means skipping that extra drink, so you can actually feel what's happening. You commit to not faking. If something doesn't happen, that's okay. You'll stay real, learn, and adjust. You give warm-up its due. You let your body arrive before expecting it to run. From the outside, none of these moves are flashy. They won't turn you into some fantasy stereotype. But from the inside, they are exactly the kinds of changes that turn sex from "we're doing this because we should" into "we're doing this because it genuinely feels good." If some of this brought up a knot in your stomach, maybe because you recognize yourself in the habits I described, take that as a sign of courage, not shame. Seeing the pattern is the first step to changing it. You don't have to fix everything at once. Pick one thing. Maybe it's not faking. Maybe it's speaking up one time. Maybe it's slowing down for 5 extra minutes. Small shifts, repeated, can completely change your experience over time. I'd love to know if you feel comfortable sharing in the comments. Which of these habits do you recognize in yourself the most? And what's one small change you're willing to try the next time you're intimate? Your answer might quietly help someone else who's been feeling the same way. If you want more honest, practical videos about sex and relationships that respect your intelligence and your privacy, consider subscribing. We're going to keep talking about the things most people wonder about, but rarely get clear, non-judgmental answers to. Take care of your body, your pleasure, and your honesty. They all matter more than you've probably been told. And I'll see you in the next video.